Okay. Well, hey, good afternoon, good morning. If you're out there on the West Coast or west of Atlanta at least, welcome to Product Coffee at Lunch. I don't know. We don't even have a name for this thing yet, but we're going to start doing more of these. We did a few last year, and they got such a great response. We've decided to start adding this into our programming in addition to our regular Wednesday meetups. And if you haven't been to a Product Coffee session before, a lot of what we do is we get a bunch of product people together on a Zoom call, and we talk about how to be better product people and how to create more impact in what we do. And my name is Jason Brett, and we've been hosting this since for about 3 years now. Actually, we started during the pandemic, and today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. We normally go deep on a topic with a group discussion or something like that, but today we're going to do something different. I'm here with my good friend Devin Smith, who is the host of the Experience Leader podcast, as well as the co-founder of Podium Studios, which we're sitting in right now, which is where we've been doing Product Coffee from all year long. It's an amazing facility you've got here. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, sir.
And we're going to be talking about a really important topic today, and that's product value propositions. And as we were preparing for the workshop that we're doing next week, we started identifying a bunch of recurring challenges and mistakes that people are making in their value propositions and how they use them, how they evangelize them. And so we wanted to talk about that a little bit today and just give you something to fix some problems that you may already have. So hopefully this will be useful for you. And I want to take just a moment and welcome you, Devin. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing, you were here. I came to you, but thanks for doing this. I think, you took some good time out of your busy schedule. And let's let the folks who don't know you Talk a little bit about yourself. Tell us, what you've been doing for the last couple of years and the kind of work that you're doing.
Sure. So, man, thanks for having me. Always love doing this stuff. I don't do it enough. The crazy thing is most of the time I'm on the other side of the desk. So thanks for, giving me a chance to be on this side. And shout out to our producer, Jay Witt, on the other side of the desk. Thank you for running the con there. But we are. We're excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. I've been working as an independent product consultant for the last year and a half or so. My career kind of spans a lot of different things. I'm kind of a career mutt, but as Steve Jobs says, you're not able to connect the dots when you're in it. You connect it in hindsight. So, spent 9 years in the agency world and advertising, and got to be around some just amazing creative folks and marketing strategists working on national and international brands, and got to see it done at a really high level. Got to see people take really complex ideas and turn them into one sentence. And I went from there into the product world, into software design and into product strategy, and again got to work on really cool stuff. I got my start at Wells Fargo.
Okay.
And working on product design there, was a product designer for them and a CX lead, and we got to work on stuff that affected millions of people, which is awesome and stressful at the same time. And be a part of a 300,000 person, be a cog in a 300,000 person machine. And went into consulting. Eventually, just started doing it on my own because I love helping people, not just with the product side, but also with the go-to-market side. And so the value proposition thing is a huge thing for me. I love helping people take that value prop and turn it into something that's brief, that connects with people, that says, yep, I want to buy that.
Yep. And I see that in the work that you do and the conversations that we have both online and offline. It's just something that really emanates from you and your love for it and your excitement for it and your passion for it. And a lot of that comes in. You do a lot of work around jobs to be done as well, and it all just ties together so beautifully.
Yes, that is when I discovered the theory of jobs to be done. I was working as a product innovation consultant And so I was just basically, I was doing product strategy projects all the time. And I stumbled across a Harvard Business Review article, and what they were talking about, it piqued my interest because, I was reading that and I was saying that's how I buy. Mm-hmm. I know that's how I buy, and that's how everybody I know, that's how they buy. Every human I know, that's the messy decision-making process that they go through to buy. And, because I was constantly, going from project to project, trying to help people figure out what product should they be making. And we were trying to figure out value prop before the product was even built. We were trying to figure out value prop. And the thing I love about Jobs is that it helps you to understand the value prop from the outset. And so it's helping you to craft not just the product, but the marketing and the go to market. It shows you where you need to go to market to start to get traction quickly. And so that is it's a big part of my tool belt. I don't think it's like silver bullet, but it's the closest thing I've ever found to a silver bullet. Because really, at the end of the day, all it is understanding demand. It's understanding, okay, there are people out there who want something done. Yep. They have demand. There's not a thing to fill it, and the person who fills it gets to take home the money.
Yep.
So we're just trying to figure out what's out there and how to fill it. That's it.
Exactly. And, you mentioned silver bullet, and just as a fun aside, my good friend, Jay Henderson, who is Senior Vice President of Product at Alteryx, which is an AI-powered data company, he has a expression that he is fond. Anytime he hears anybody talking about the silver bullet, he says, "You know what silver bullets are good for, Devin?
Killing vampires?
Killing werewolves." Killing werewolves. That's, right. That's what a silver bullet's good for.
That's right. There are some product and marketing problems that I would classify as werewolves.
Yeah, that is a fact. So let's get into it today. Let's get into what we came here to talk about today. But as we're starting that up, I want to tell everybody who's watching, I want you to stick around for a little while here. We're going to talk about big problems and mistakes that product people make when they're building and crafting and using their value proposition. And we put together, near the end of this, we're going to give you a link where you can go download a list of these 10 big mistakes and how you can avoid them, the way to specifically avoid them. We call it the value prop not to-do list, and we're going to give that to you today. And we've also got a workshop coming up through Product Coffee next Friday. A week from today, it's going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern, and there we go, right there. And it's actually going to flash the link if you're paying really close attention. You'll see it. You'll see it already. But Devin is going to be leading a workshop called Craft and Convey, the Essential Product Value Proposition Workshop. And we're going to go really deep into the heart of pulling together the perspectives that you need, the information that you need, and crafting a great product value prop. If you've already got one crafted, great. You can test it against what we're going to talk about. And not only how to craft it, but how to put it to use to get the maximum value across your organization and create the best value for your customers, for your company, and for your own career. It's going to be a fantastic session. And when you download the checklist over at productcoffee.com, you'll also be offered a 25% discount. It's only going to be good until this time Sunday. So it's a 48-hour discount. So you're going to want to so watch this and download that, and you'll get 25% off the workshop itself. We'll also talk a little bit later about how you could get the workshop for free if you want to.
Oh man, so, he's such a generous man. He's a generous man.
All right, but let's get back to our topic today. Let's talk about the mistakes that people made and make as a general rule. And I'm just going to let you kind of take this. There's a few big ones that we've talked about, but if you were to really think about all of the challenges that you've seen, the mistakes that product teams have made when they're crafting, when they're just kind of getting started with their value prop, what would you say the number one biggest mistake you see is?
Oh man, so the one that I see the most is that they're overly complex. When I ask people to, say I'm working with a client and I ask them to tell me, why do people buy your product? And if I get a paragraph back, I'm like, nope, that's not it. If it's a paragraph long, you don't know enough to whittle it down. What did Mark Twain said? If I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter.
Yep.
And Steve Jobs talked about simplicity. It's hard to get simplicity. Simplicity is actually hard. You have to spend time. That's one of the things he said. You got to spend time with something to understand what doesn't need to be there. Mm-hmm. And that is why I think it's one of the most common mistakes is that the work that has to be done to be able to chisel away at what doesn't need to be there and understand, like, if we say these 5 words to people, that tells them, hey, this is for me. That's actually, it's difficult. And so, especially as busy product and marketing professionals, like, we have so many other things that we're trying to accomplish. Not everybody is spending all their time trying to think about how to distill a paragraph down into a sentence that's going to make somebody buy, right?
Right.
It's a hard thing to do, and your organization may not have the people in-house to help you do that. So I understand why this mistake is made so often. But it is one of the things that when I'm working on my own stuff with my own businesses, or I'm working with a client, that is one of the things that I really, really try to drill down on is, okay, how can we get this down to one sentence that is easy to understand for the people we want to buy? I'm not even saying that everybody on the planet has to understand it, but it is better if you can communicate that value prop in basically what would be a headline in an ad. If you can do that, you've got something solid. And it's tough to get there, but an overly complex value prop, it hurts not only the customer knowing whether or not your product is for them, because attention spans are short. They're gonna read the headline and they're gonna decide whether they want to give you another millisecond or not, based off of that headline, or the image. If the image that they see, because we can figure out ways to communicate value prop just by an image. One of the things I love about my time in advertising was sometimes we didn't have to put any words at all.
Right.
We put an image up there and somebody would instantly grab them, right? Like that. I love that. And it really is a problem solving exercise and figuring out how to communicate as much as possible with as little as possible. That right there, if you can get down to that, you can solve that problem. And I think that if you don't have the people in house, don't give up. Don't give up on trying to do that. Don't give up on committing to getting a value prop that is you're able to throw into a headline, because that's what the greats in the past do. That's how they move the needle, is they figure out how to get people to say that's for me in as little time as possible.
So, a lot of the language that we're using here is really marketing language. And the reality is, in my opinion, product management is first and foremost, it is a marketing function, because it's about, if you think about the 4 Ps of marketing, well, what's the first one? It's product.
Right.
But often a lot of the wording you're using is wording that we might look to our marketing colleagues and think, okay, you're responsible for crafting this value proposition. But that's not really true, is it?
Right.
It really needs to originate with the product side of things, right?
Yes.
And why is that important?
So what I've found is that, I've been on both the product and the marketing side, sometimes both at the same time.
A lot of us are.
Yep. Shout out to everybody out there trying to make it happen. I've been on both, and the marketing folks they're depending on product to be able to tell them what this is. Now, amazing marketing executives know that part of understanding the market is also their job. It's not just product's job, it's also their job. And they'll be very proactive about trying to make sure that they understand that. But I've found that most places I've been, marketing wants product to be able to guide them on, hey, this is the thing that matters to the market the most. Can you take this and help me sell it? And so it's really incumbent upon product leaders to be able to understand their customers inside and out, to at least be able to communicate to marketing, here's what matters to people. Help me communicate this.
Yeah.
But if you just leave it to marketing, again, I'm not trying to disrespect any of my marketing friends out there, but they will, one, they'll be frustrated with you. And then two, there's a strong possibility that you're going to have a lot of trial and error. And wasted dollars, basically.
One of the things that I've observed with marketing teams is every year when budgets are being prepared, marketing teams are asked to do more and more with fewer and fewer resources. Now, they've got technology at their disposal, and that really helps to be a force multiplier for the people. But the reality is, if your company is growing and delivering a lot of products and creating a lot of different products, your marketing colleagues have to make judgment calls. They have to make the prioritization decisions just like you do in the product. They got to make prioritization decisions on what they're going to use in the go-to-market, where they're going to invest marketing dollars, what they're going to communicate to the market to deliver value about the whole company and generate sales and generate leads for sales teams. So making sure that you've got the information and the clear communication of here's what we're building, here's who we're building it for, and here's what the reason we're building it in the first place. The opportunity that we've identified among our customers or among our target audience to solve a major problem, help them complete a job. This is what we're creating. The more you can communicate that, the better you can communicate that to your marketing colleagues, the easier it is for your work to become a priority and be a bigger part of the overall message for the company.
Right. And I've generally found that the more you work together on those things, the better outcomes you get, because product's not going to have all the answers all the time either. But then you have to do less work to socialize it and to convince folks.
Right.
And so I've always done my best to bring people into that process as much as they want to be. And I've generally found people want to be.
Right.
When I'm starting the process of doing the customer interviews, I mean, I remember getting, kind of like, held up like, hey, you going to let my marketing manager be a part of this interview or not? And I'm like, that'd be great. I didn't, okay, cool. I didn't know she'd want to be,
Right.
They were thinking I was going to try to push them away. And I'm like, no, yeah, come on in.
Yeah.
So that's been an area that I've found accelerates the success of getting that done. Bringing people in early in the process.
Yeah. So I want to, as we're kind of moving through this, and I want to talk about a couple of other topics here, so thank you.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure that everybody who's watching, I see we got a bunch of people watching us on LinkedIn. We got a bunch of people watching us on YouTube. If you haven't already followed Product Coffee on LinkedIn and on YouTube, please do so, subscribe. And also, while we're on here today, this is not just me and Devin talking. Throw in your comments. First of all, we want to know where you're watching from, who's out there watching. If you would, please, just in LinkedIn, if you're watching on LinkedIn, drop a comment. Tell us who's here, what you're looking at, and what you're thinking about. And if you have questions or specific challenges you've seen that you'd like us to address while we're talking here for the next few minutes, please throw them out there. Same on YouTube. We're watching the comments there. We'd love to know where you're all watching from, just and what's on your mind, what you're thinking, what you're hearing, and some of the experiences that you're focused on as well. So do please kind of break through there and be a part of this discussion with us.
Absolutely.
So I want to come back around now. Because we talked about the complexity and we talked about the value of creating that resource and that relationship with your marketing colleagues to create a ton of value or to create better value and deliver better value to the market. One of the things that I have observed in my career especially is the consistency of product value props in the first place. And when I say consistency, what I'm really talking about is I talk to so many product managers who, if you ask them what their product's value prop is, it'll change every single time they give it to you. And if you ask the product manager what's the ask the product manager what the value prop is, and then you ask the engineering lead what the value prop is, you get a different answer. And if you ask the CEO what the value prop is, you get a different answer. If you ask the CMO, you get a different answer. So there's kind of fuzziness, and it seems like everybody has a general idea of what the value prop is, or at least they think they do, but they don't really align on it completely. Have you seen that as well?
Yes. Oh man, that's a big one. And that can come from a couple different areas. You're either not socializing it enough, or it's this sort of, this ethereal sort of thing. It's a cultural thing that we kind of understand the value prop, but we've never really put it down on paper. Right? Like we all just kind of get it. And this can be a sort of a growing pain thing for startups. But for larger companies, it's generally a communication thing. It's generally we've had some folks around this, sales, the executive team, product, and we talk about it, marketing, we talk about it, but we never got it down to a succinct list. And so I've been in many companies, and I think it's a natural stage in the process. Like, I remember when I was at the first consulting firm that I worked at. We were a startup. We were trying to figure out the best way to position ourselves. And I got into sales there pretty quickly. And so, I was managing those projects, but also helping to close them. So I had to be in there with the salespeople and hear them talk about the value prop. Yep. And I got to go to conferences and be in our booth and talk to people on the floor of the conference. And I would hear different people from the company talk about our value proposition, and they would talk about it a different way. Me and the head of marketing would go to these conferences, and we would sort of like live market test, pitching our value prop to people in conversations to see if it connected. And that was kind of the lab for us. So he and I would work together while we're at the office. And then, we got to fly out to San Francisco to go to a conference, and we're like, all right, we're going to test these three, and we're going to say these, and we're going to see how these connect in conversation. We would do that. It's fine when it's intentional. Not awesome when it's, you've got multiple people saying different things. And some people can latch onto something where it's like, okay, we never got agreement on this. We didn't talk about it. And this person over here thinks that it's this, and they don't agree with this. This other person here thinks it's that. They don't agree with this person over here that it should be said this way. And so you've got them saying it different ways. To be frank, the CEO doesn't care if we're selling money, if we're selling, product, if we're selling engagements. The CEO's like, hey, if the shoe fits,
yeah, right.
But like when it's not working, that's when you start to get attention on it. And what people really need is for you to help them have something to use, because the most common time that I see that happen, where everybody's talking about different value prop, is essentially when they're being left to fend for themselves.
Yeah.
They got to figure it out. They have goals to reach, especially the salespeople. Those guys, those gals are going to be, they're going to be dogged about figuring it out because they got to make commission. And so they're not waiting for marketing or product to give them the value prop. They're going to start trying stuff. They're going to start shooting from the hip. And that's where I've seen it happen the most. So, my advice is get in front of that. Don't leave them to figure it out themselves.
Right. And if your responsibility as a product manager is to ensure that we're building valuable things for our customers, then being able to communicate exactly why everything you're building is valuable for your customers is core to the job. And so many product managers that I talk to out there, they're so focused on the backlog and the work and the delivering the feature and the getting it and the shipping and the shipping and the shipping and the shipping that they don't take the time that they need to really own that value prop and make sure that everyone's aligned with it. But those who do emerge as major leaders in the organization, right?
Absolutely.
And I want to say hey to Gaurav, who is watching us from India. And you're talking about, Gaurav, you're talking about a common mistake in the healthcare value props that you see is emphasizing the product features instead of how they directly benefit patients or providers. And that's a really good point. We call that navel gazing, right?
Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah. Great call out there, Gaurav. And I love the name that you gave it, because that's really what it is. And again, I get it. People are out there trying to make stuff work, trying to make it work, trying to make things happen. But that is one of the big mistakes, is us sitting around in the ivory tower and thinking, hey, we know it has these great features and potential benefits, and we're going to talk about that, and we don't spend the time actually listening to the market. Again, that's why I'm a huge jobs guy. When you spend that time paying attention to what people are already doing, how are they solving the problem right now, even without your product, because you want to think from a demand side, and we'll talk about this a lot more in the workshop, but you want to think from the demand side. What's the demand? What is the progress they're trying to make that they're deciding to buy something to solve? They are deciding to buy a product or a service to solve that, but you can speak to that and framing it around what they want to do, as opposed to just your product's features. Yep. Is a huge deal. And when you sit there and you talk about your stuff, that's what you're doing. You're just looking down at the old navel and talking about you. And one of my favorite sayings, was from best boss I've ever had. He told me, he's like, Devin, one of the things I need you to understand in business is that nobody cares about you.
It's true.
and he was so right. Nobody cares about you. They care about what they're trying to accomplish. And if you talk about you the whole time, you're going to lose them.
And we used to talk about everybody's favorite radio station. What's in it for me? WIIFM.
Yes.
So I just looked at the clock and holy cow, it is almost the top of the hour.
Wow.
This has flown by. I want to real quickly, I'm going to run down the list of the 10 mistakes, and then I'm going to tell you where you can get it. And we're going to talk about the workshop just a little bit on our way out.
Yeah.
But the list, so we've got our value prop not to do list, and I'm going to tell you here in just a moment again how to go download that. But it is, the 10 are an undefined audience. And by the way, our download talks a little bit more about them and how to avoid them. An undefined audience, the navel-gazing narrative that we were just talking about, one size fits all. Your vision is in the clouds. That's where we kind of have this, we were talking about this ethereal, elusive, everybody's just kind of got their own idea. They kind of get it, but it's not crisp and defined. Yep. Overly complex being a really big one we talked about at the beginning of the talk. Missing the heartbeat. I'm sorry we didn't get into this, but we'll get into it on another time. But really failing to connect with the audience on an emotional level. And a set and forget that you create a value prop and you never revisit it. Living in an echo chamber where you're ignoring customer and market feedback when you're shaping it. Making promises beyond reach, or as you like to, what's the line from Top Gun?
It's the Iceman complex, writing checks that your body can't cash.
Exactly. And competitive blinders, failing to even look at the competitive landscape as you're creating your value prop. These are the 10 big ones. And if you go over to productcoffee.com/toolbox, productcoffee.com/toolbox, and we'll drop that in the comments to make it easy for you to grab that as well. But you'll see an opportunity to download that checklist, and there's a little bit more information about how to avoid those mistakes. And when you download that checklist, we are also going to give you a discount for joining the workshop that Devin's going to be leading next week for 25% off. So it'll come out to about $149. These are $199 typically, but it's $149 if you use this discount code. And we'll go through a 2-hour process to craft and validate and think about how you're going to use that product value prop to up your game overall. Now, as far as getting into the workshop for free, if you go to productcoffee.com, you can join our premium Product Coffee membership on a 7-day trial. It's $500 a year, but with a 7-day trial, you can attend this workshop for free. If you love it, stick around. We'll give you 12 more workshops across the year. So we do a new workshop every month to help you be a better product management professional, to help you get better results. And you can absolutely, and we'd love to have you join our community. There's a lot of benefits. You can read about it, join up on that, and check us out over the next week or so. Check out this workshop and be a part of that. So thanks, Devin, for dropping that in over at LinkedIn and at YouTube. So, and hey, Jay, it's so good to see you on here, joining us there on LinkedIn. And we have Play Me Again Pianos watching from Marietta on YouTube as well. Glad you could all join us. Devin, you want to talk a little bit, for those who are writing things down and still sticking around here for a minute? I want to let people go if they need to get back to work after lunch, but you want to talk a little bit more about the workshop and what we're going to cover there?
Absolutely. So the workshop is going to help you to not just avoid these 10 pitfalls, but it's going to help you to craft a value proposition that works for all of the parties that you have to sell to, internal and external. And so we're gonna have a very practical workshop where it's going to be interactive. We're actually going to practice this in the workshop, but we're going to go from start to finish to create a value proposition that hits all the right notes. It's brief. It connects emotionally. It tells them how they're going to make progress on what they want to make progress on. We're going to have examples in there. And by the end of this, my goal is essentially for you to be able to understand how to take this back to your company and apply it to your company, because that's really the true value of this, is you being able to take it back home to wherever you do your work, and to help you incorporate that and to boost your company and also your own career, because as Jason mentioned earlier, if you're able to do this, it is really going to have an impact on your career. It's going to have an impact on the influence that you have within the company that you work for. And I think that you're really going to see a lot of value in just practicing, taking these practical things that we lay out for you, this framework, and practicing that at your company. A lot of people will thank you if you're able to do it effectively.
Very good. I'm really excited about that. That's a week from today, 10 a.m. Eastern. So if you're dialing in from Europe or India, it should be at a good, convenient time for you, as well as those on the West Coast. We'll get you an early start to your Friday and give you something to lead into the weekend with some great food for thought. And these workshops, by the way, you will walk out of this workshop with some accomplishments. You'll walk out of here. We're going to work on this stuff in real time, and you're going to have things to pressure test with your team and start circulating and with your entire team and improving upon when you get into the office on Monday or even later Friday afternoon. So this is going to give you a head start and really kind of amp up your leadership opportunities in the product world in your organization. Love to have you join us. Anything else we want for some parting shots? You know what? For those who are still here, if you got a few minutes, we didn't get to talk about the emotional connection piece, the missing the heartbeat. And I would love to really take a minute to talk about the implications of that, the challenges that it creates when you don't do that, and more importantly, the ones who get it right and really nail getting the heartbeat of their customer and their opportunity into the value prop. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the big things that you have to be able to do is to connect with somebody emotionally, because we know science has shown us that the decision center of our brain is in the part of our brain that handles our emotions. We mostly make decisions out of the emotional center of our brain. And I think that obviously there are a lot of things that impact our emotions, but if you don't impact the emotions, it's much, much, much harder to get somebody to make a decision. And there are emotions wrapped up in in the problem that somebody has that you're trying to tell them that you can solve. There are emotions wrapped up into that. And that's what the people in the advertising world are masters at being able to, really like grip onto that. And it's kind of an inside joke. We joke that we're bad guys because we spend so much time trying to tug on people's, emotional strings. But the reality is you have to go through that gate essentially to help somebody connect with what you're trying to tell them when they have all these other things going on in their life. And one of the things that I love that Bob Mesta says, he talks about the struggling moment. When somebody is deciding that what they're doing could be done better, that they have a problem, they feel like, hey, this needs to be better. I want a better way to do this. That struggling moment is where the opportunity to make a sale is created. That if that struggling moment doesn't happen, they're not listening to you. They're not. There are things that can be done. I am crazy enough of a marketing, person. The marketing side of me is crazy enough to think that I can do inception and keep sending signals and all that. And that, so that when they do have the struggling moment, they're like, I remember that thing, So there's something to be said for that. I'm not saying that you can't win if the struggling moment hasn't happened, but there is no opportunity to make a sale until that struggling moment has happened, and there are emotions wrapped up in that struggling moment.
Right.
So understanding the emotional side of it helps you to really write something that gets to the heart of what that person wants. Example, I was in the healthcare tech space, and spent time talking to healthcare providers. And one of the things that we found from them is that they wanted to be able to get to their patients where their patients were. And sometimes, especially because of COVID, that made it difficult for them to do things the way that they had always done them. And so some people weren't coming in. Some people, they'd maybe come to the curb to pick up something. They wouldn't come inside the building to pick up something. And after listening to these people and connecting that, finding the sweet spot with what we could actually provide, I came up with the tagline, wherever your patients need you to be.
Right.
And that immediately connected with people.
Yeah.
Wherever your patients need you to be. That is what they needed to hear to say, that's the problem I'm trying to solve. I want to be where my patients need me to be. And it tugged on the emotional heartstrings, but it also clearly communicated the ultimate value, the progress that the product was helping them make. So that's kind of my shtick on that, is understanding that part. Is it cannot be overlooked. And I especially see way too many B2B companies that they ignore that. B2C companies are great at it because they've been the ones buying the Super Bowl commercials, for decades and all that stuff. And, they've been trying to communicate in areas where you don't have a lot of time to get something across. And they've honed that a lot. And I think B2B companies and B2B marketers for a long time have said, oh, well, this is a complex sale. B2B is different. And one of the things I always used to bark when I was in the agency world, when I'd hear somebody say that when I was working with B2B clients, is the same humans that are buying a pack of laundry detergent, the same humans who are doing that are buying enterprise software.
Right.
It's the same humans.
Yep.
And the brains work the same
100%.
way. So you have an opportunity here to rise above the rest of the marketplace and actually tap into the emotional side of what these people want. That I think is still an opportunity out there, in my opinion. I still think it's an opportunity.
And I would even suggest that the need to connect to that heartbeat, to get that emotional connection, is even more important in the B2B world, because to make that B2B sale, in so many cases, not only do you have to make the connection with the stakeholder who wants the product, you have to make it so strongly that they're going to go through the process, the internal process, working with procurement, especially if you're a new vendor, right? Working with procurement to get the product, to actually make the buy. So you've got to be so connected that it's worth the effort to buy you. Even if your buyer is saying, yeah, I'd really like that, it's got to be worth it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because anybody who's worked inside of a larger company knows the process of procuring something new is arduous. And there has to be a lot of emotional gas in the tank to get across the finish line, to get all the people who are a part of saying yes to something to say yes. I think you're exactly right. That it's actually more important because more people have to say yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's great. So I want to thank you, Devin. This has been a really insightful discussion.
Man.
I'm super excited about your workshop next week. And once again, join us next Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We would love to have you. Devin's going to be going really into the depths of how to craft and convey your product value proposition. This is fundamental to delivering great products to the market. You can download the full checklist that we've talked about today at productcoffee.com/toolbox, and you'll get a 25% discount on the workshop next week when you do. And we will look forward to seeing you there. Thanks, Devin. Thanks, everybody who joined us on LinkedIn and YouTube. And feel free to reach out to us after the fact. You can send a note to jason@productcoffee.com, and we'll connect you to Devin, and we'll be happy to kind of follow up if you have any questions that you didn't get to ask or that we didn't get to talk about from the show today. So thanks for joining us. Let us know what you thought about this lunchtime session if you'd like to see more of them. So have a great afternoon and a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jason.
Yep. Thanks, Dave.